Wait, so how many languages exactly do you have you studied? Is it like 23 or something?
Yeah, totally. Like, I speak 29 languages, all different levels, and
29.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah.
In this video, I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Wouter Kortewener. He is a polyglot or even a hyper polyglot who speaks, I think it's up to 29, 20, at least 20 plus languages. He's incredible. He's also a YouTuber. He has, I believe, 300 something thousand subscribers. And on his YouTube channel, he makes content where he goes around in Amsterdam and surprises people using his language skills. And because he speaks so many languages, sometimes he rewards them when they can speak a language that he can't speak. He's got some really, really cool videos. I think the most famous of which is when he gave strangers €5 if he couldn't speak their language, as well as one video where he literally speaks 21 languages with another polyglot. In this video, we're going to talk about how he learned his different languages, why he learned so many, and of course, there's going to be some tantalizing language learning tips that everyone can use. So lastly, before we hop into this interview is sponsored by no one. We actually don't have any sponsors. So I would just say that my upcoming language learning app is, I guess, sponsoring this a bit preemptively. If you guys don't know, I'm working on a language learning app. I've been working on it for the last 2.5 years and it's almost ready. It is an amazing app. It is not a gamified language learning app. It literally is a video game to learn languages. There's flashcards better than Anki. There's Discord-like social features, and there's just so much that this app is going to do. I am super excited, and we're going to be releasing the Kickstarter soon. So please go to tinyurl.com/ikena-app to sign up for the mailing list if you want to be notified when this app drops, because it is coming soon and it is beyond anything that I've seen, at least in terms of language learning apps. So definitely sign up and enjoy the video. It has been a really, really cool experience to watch all of your videos on YouTube. I've been a fan. I've watched your stuff for a long time. How are you doing today, my friend?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for inviting me to your podcast. It's really looks like an awesome experience, and yeah, I'm totally fine. Everything is going well, and the weather is a little bit better in the Netherlands.
Oh
And
yeah?
yeah, yeah. So I can find more different people on the street. So yeah, everything is going well. What about you? How's everything
Nice.
going?
Yeah, it's going well. It's going well. It's actually like snowing super hard outside right now in New York. So I was
Oh, really?
surprised when you
Oh, that's
said,
crazy.
yeah, the Amsterdam weather is much better than what it is over here. But yeah, so for the people who don't know you, you speak a bajillion different languages, and it's something that is super, super cool. I've been following you probably for the last few years, seeing you from the time when you used to kind of sell, I believe it was like paintings or artwork in Amsterdam, to creating your YouTube channel, to really like, going crazy with it over these last, I think, year, just with the amount of content that you're doing. I was curious, what languages do you know, and to what different levels would you kind of classify them at?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, like just one thing I always tell people like I'm not doing any paintings, but mostly drawings, handmade woodcut
Mm,
prints, etching prints, stuff like that. Yeah, like how many languages? Like first of all, I think knowing a language and speaking a language like that, these are two different things for me basically. So in my entire life, I studied a lot of different languages, and right now I would say there's six languages in which I feel comfortable, which I really speak on a level in which I could talk about any topic. Still, I'm hesitating.
okay.
Still, I make mistakes, but I would say I have a strong level in six languages. The other 23 languages are more like most of them are basic. So like my Russian, my Mandarin, I could still converse
Mm,
with people, but I cannot translate my thoughts into a word. That's what I'm
got
missing.
you.
And I also want to explain to your audience and my audience that it's pretty hard to improve a language such as Mandarin or Russian, for example. It takes way more
Mm,
time compared to a language like Spanish or German.
Spanish. Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think it's pretty normal that there are different levels basically because some languages take more time compared to the other ones.
I completely get that. So it's like essentially you'd say six strong
Yeah.
languages, and the rest are languages that you had kind of passing interest in, and you wanted to learn some words there and some phrases there, and be able to kind of express yourself. Where did that need to kind of express yourself come from? Because I know we touched upon it a little bit already, but what was your previous job? What were you doing kind of before YouTube, and what got you into language learning in general?
Yeah, really, really good question. So you already told before. So, like I'm an artist, so I studied art until I was
Mm-hmm.
at 22 years old. I graduated basically, and yeah, then I was working for like half a year, like in art supply stores, like just selling art materials, like in the store. But yeah, after that, basically, I was like doing my selling my art, So as you just told before, like I was selling my art, like so I had made woodcut prints, had made etching prints, caricatures of people, and I was doing drawings. So that was my yeah. When I was 23, 24, 25 years old, I was just doing that, And since I was
Mm-hmm.
26 years old, if I'm not wrong, like I started my YouTube channel. Of course, I was still doing my art, but in combination
Mm-hmm.
with my YouTube channel, and I started slowly, basically. So I posted one video I can remember at the beginning. So I was 26 years old, and that video became very yeah. It was becoming popular. I didn't expect it. It was just like a crazy video
Which one
practicing
was
18
it?
languages with tourists. It was like
I feel like
at
I've
the
seen it.
village
Yeah.
where I was selling my art, So that's the
Mm-hmm.
place where yeah, where you have the windmills. The Sans is the name. So I just saw a lot of different people passing by who spoke different languages like Mandarin and Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very interested about like Mandarin, it's so different than French or German, which I had at school. So I was just interested in learning the language. So I started with Chinese, and yeah, that's basically the yeah, what do you say, the relationship between my job, my previous, like my
Mm.
job, and yeah, languages. I would say that's like how I got it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got you. Got you. So it was more due to kind of curiosity because you were surrounded by all these languages and all these different people, and you heard a little bit of
Mm.
this language, or you went home and you're like, oh, I gotta learn this. This sounds really really cool, and then it kind of spiraled on from there. Um, One thing that I kind of wanted to touch on is the whole concept of um, wanting to kind of speak right away, or waiting and watching a lot of stuff and studying a lot of stuff and kind of putting that off for a long time. Because personally, because I'm more introverted, I feel like I need to not perfect the language, but like get a very good understanding of the language and know 1,000 words or 2,000 words before I even start speaking to people. Whereas from my perspective, it seems like if you're interested in a language and you have the opportunity to kind of speak it, even if you know 20 words or 50 words or 100 words, or you just started learning it a few days before, you're already starting to speak. Could you talk a little bit about that, and what your opinion is in terms of, should you speak from day one? Should you hold off? How do you personally think about that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I also really, first of all, understand the approach of waiting a little bit because it can be pretty awkward at the beginning when you don't know so much about the language. Like I'm not afraid of being awkward. Like that's also the
Hmm.
thing on my videos. I'm just talking and I see what's happening. But I'm not sure if you have this theory, like also like in English, but in Dutch there's like a word which we call like the that snowball effect, like the snowball effect
Yeah,
doesn't
we have that
exist
as well.
in
Yeah.
English. Like
Hmm.
yeah, so it's basically like you have a small snowball, right? So let's say the 20 words we're talking about. But once the snowball is rolling, you basically catch more words and more material
Hmm.
around you. So that's how I see it. Basically, you're starting with 20 words. Those are getting 50 words, 100, and after a while, 1,000.
Gotcha.
But it's really about absorbing. So let's say I'm the snowball, right? I just try to catch everything what's happening around me. So when people are talking about their day, for example, and I don't know a specific word, I'm going to repeat their words and putting it in the next phrase, right?
Hmm.
So I basically try to get out of my comfort zone, like within a very early stage. And I try with the words which are most important for me. I try to learn the grammar, conjugating verbs are very important for me. And then each week I try to collect more information. And then
Hmm.
after some months, you're like, whoa, cool, I can finally have a basic conversation. So often I need 2 or 3 months in order to yeah, be able to have a simple conversation with someone.
Gotcha.
And then the time after that, like for example, I'm like writing, I'm texting a lot of people on Instagram, for example,
Hmm.
and I just try to read what they're saying. I try to use it in my next phrases. So I basically try to absorb what they are putting into their context, and I try to sort of use it and try to construct other phrases. So
Got you.
for me, it's like constructing, it's like building something, you know?
That's
That's how
super
I see
cool. So
it.
essentially, you're using conversations to kind of grow the snowball. And kind
Yeah.
of once you, it's weird because I guess my approach and perhaps more introverted people's approach is kind of like
Mhm.
they're gonna build the snowball, like they're just gonna keep on patting it for like by themselves for like a long time, and then
Yeah.
eventually, when it's ready, if it's ever ready, they push it, and then they start doing that with conversations, where it's kind of like you're starting with a snowball, you go, yeah, good enough, let's go, and then it kind of you pick up words as you go through conversations. That's really really cool.
I've
um
nothing to lose, you know, so that's
yeah,
how I see it. I've nothing to lose. Like right now, I have a lot of friends in Amsterdam, also because of Corona is right now sort of like I'm not sure if it's over, but almost over, right?
no one
So I meet a lot
knows.
of people in bars actually. So I have like Spanish speaking friends, Chinese speaking friends. What I just do right now is that I'm just like drinking something with them in a bar, and I just talk with them basically. You know, I talk to them in their native language, and if I don't understand something, I just ask in their native language, and it's
Got you.
almost feeling like something which is keeping you alive, you know, like
Yeah,
so that's how much I can love a language. And
that's actually the on that point. So, how many languages exactly do you have you studied? Is it like 23 or
yeah,
something?
yeah, totally. Like I speak 29 languages, all at different levels, you know, and
29.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah, really all at different levels. So like the problem is also like
Hmm.
some languages I didn't use for a while, and they're basically the levels getting down, you know, and
Yeah.
then some languages are you know like uh improving because I use them more times. So I basically have the most trouble with the languages which I don't speak a lot. So what I try right
I'm
now
the
is
same.
like I try to improve my strategy, and the strategy is like not having a strategy. Basically, that sounds weird, I know it, but what
Just
I
go
try
with the
to do
flow.
is I try to have as much different friends as possible with different nationalities. I just meet them in bars, I relax with them, I call with them, and I try to make it as natural as possible. Basically, like I'm not learning a language, but I'm just using it as a tool to communicate. That's what
Got
I
you.
try. But in some people don't have a nationality, for example, and they're not, for example, many. Let's say there are not so many people in the Netherlands who speak, for example, yeah, I'm thinking Japanese. I don't meet a
Hmm.
lot of Japanese native
Yeah, it's
speakers.
hard to find.
So yeah.
Would you say, kind of bouncing off of that, so 29 now that you've kind of
Mhm.
studied, is there an upper limit? Are you just gonna go until it's all languages, or is it 100? Is
Nah.
it, because you're still young, so it's like, what are you gonna make out of the next 60 years or so?
Well, it's nice that you say that you're still young. I mean, I like that approach, you know, like you know, because like I agree, like we have a lot of time, you know, we shouldn't
Mm,
forget that. So and yeah, what I really want, like, it's not about the numbers. I'm not
of course.
focusing on a sort of number because, like, it sounds like, oh, like 40 languages, that's a lot. It's not like that. But
Of course.
I'm basically so much interested in different languages that I cannot choose. So it's also like a problem for me. Like, I'm
I'm
a
the
kid
same.
in a store, you know, and
Yeah.
there's so many different candies, and I can just choose basically.
It's
So.
interesting. It's like, I had
Mhm.
this kind of concept a while ago, where there's like three, almost like three different types of language learners, where there's
Mhm.
like fluency fighters, fluency hunters, and like fluency like wizards. And it's kind of like
Mhm.
the fluency fighters, like mainly like they're kind of bouncing between languages every 3 months. It's kind of like that
Yeah.
candy shop approach, where it's like, oh, this one's super super interesting. Oh, but wait, this one is super, super interesting. Whereas
Yeah.
hunters are more like they'll go and they'll chase a language till they get it to like an intermediate, and then they will bounce to another thing. And then you have other people who, for example, like fluency sages or wizards,
Mhm.
they will spend 5, 10 years only in one language until it's like
Yeah.
so, 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 so good. And
Yeah.
I've always kind of been in that second category, where I'm kind of like you, where languages are just they're so addicting, and I want to learn every single one of them. I don't. I try to at least get myself to like an intermediate level, like
Yeah.
before I switch over. Otherwise, I would just go and learn literally all of them. I literally told myself, I was like, hey, I'm in my 20s right now. I'm gonna get to maybe 10 languages, like add another like two or three on,
Mhm.
and then I'm not gonna learn any languages for the next 10 years, because I need to
Makes
like
sense.
I need to like maintain and better the ones that I have. But like if I don't give myself like stuff, like
Yeah.
I'm gone. I will just try to take off and learn this language and this language and this language and
Yeah.
all that. Um, but it's interesting because sometimes, you know, in the language learning community, you do have people who, perhaps they're more of a like a fluency sage. Like they think language learning is, I need to learn a language for 5, 10 years, not look at any other language. And if you don't speak, you know, a language to that upper level, you don't speak it at all. What would you say when, because I'm sure you probably get comments like this
Hmm.
sometimes, and from even for me, it's super annoying. It's like you don't see how passionate about you know, how passionate I am about these languages. I really try to you know, be able to speak them as, you know, as well as I can. But what would you say to kind of maybe talking about people who maybe have that like super high standard, like, oh, you don't speak it if you don't,
Hmm.
if you can't
Yeah.
talk about chemistry, you know, or something like this.
Interesting. Um, so first of all, like I think it's very yeah important that yeah, how do you say that it's first of all important to realize that we all have different goals, right? So everyone had
Hmm.
different goal, you know. So I mean, there are
Exactly.
people who are focusing more on fluency. There are people who are focusing more on being conversational, you know. So I think everyone could decide what his or her standard is, you know. Like we all have different goals, I think, you know.
Hmm.
So like for example, my goal is not to become fluent in a language. Like it's just not my goal. I just want to be
Mm.
communicative in, you know, many different languages, you know. So if people are criticizing me, I love constructive criticism. Just tell me if I make mistakes or whatever, and I
Of
try to use
course.
it. But I mean, I still try to use it for my goal, you know. So I don't
That's
need
true.
to
Mm.
have a native accent. So, for example, if someone would say like, "Oh, you have too much a Dutch accent when you speak English," then my reaction would be like, "Oh, it's not my goal to sound like an
Yeah.
American or to sound like
Life
whatever."
math.
Yeah, so it's not my goal, you know. But if anyone is giving me
Yeah.
constructive criticism, which I can use in order to improve my grammar, that's always
Hmm.
welcome. And a second thing which I want to say, like, is we should not focus so much on what is speaking a language, you know, because if we're doing that too much, it means that I could only speak, for example, English and Dutch, you know, or well, maybe German
Mm.
as well, or French, you know, when it's really like
Mm.
about a high level. But that's not what I want, you know.
Yeah.
Like I really want to speak the languages
Yeah.
which I speak on a lower level,
Connect with
like
people.
Mandarin or
Yeah.
Tagalog or Indonesian. So if I would say, hey, I don't speak Mandarin, for example, if I don't speak Indonesian just because my level is lower, that would mean that I shouldn't speak it at all. And that wouldn't be good in my opinion because
Mm.
like I think it's use it or lose it. So even when you have a low level, you should use it because otherwise people are going to skip to English. It always happens. Also in the Netherlands, like people speak Dutch on a A2 level and they say
Mm.
like, oh, I don't speak it because my level's too low, and I only speak English, and then the levels are only going down, and we want to go up.
That's
So
true.
that's my approach. What I would say, like, don't focus too much on that philosophy of what is speaking a language. You know, like speaking a language could also be you are able to
Mm.
communicate and you're able to use words in order to build a phrase. You know, that's speaking for me.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I
Mm.
never thought about it that way, but I kind of had like a light bulb that went off in my head, and in the sense that that's really true. If, for example, you come across a Chinese speaker
Yeah.
and you know they're speaking Chinese, oh, do you speak Chinese? No, no, I don't. Even though like maybe you've studied for a year, but you just don't feel yourself that you're good enough yet, all of a sudden you're never going to be able to practice. So it is good to put out there, kind of like they say, like you know, whether you want to, when you want to be an artist, for example,
Yeah.
don't say, oh, I want to be an artist, I aspire to be an artist. Just say, you know, yeah, yeah, soy artista. I'm already an artist, you know, like I'm an artist. So you need to kind of take yourself seriously before you know, before you like go about things. And I think that's a relatively good way to kind of look at it. That, you know, let me project that, hey, maybe I've studied three
Yeah.
months, but if you come and ask me, do I speak this language? Yeah, I'll say I speak a bit, and we can have a conversation. I can connect with you, and regardless if I've studied something and I've had this experience as well, for even one month,
Hmm.
sometimes just knowing 50 words, 10 words, I don't know, like just a little bit of words just to interact with someone can make their day, can have a cool connection. All of a sudden they're like inviting you to their house. They just appreciate that you give the effort to learn their language. um, Kind of bouncing off of that, I was curious if you have any kind of, I mean, because I mean, out of the bajillion different languages that you've learned and had
Yeah.
experiences with, one thing that I feel like someone who has tasted a lot of different languages and experienced a lot of different languages has, in terms of I don't know, has that someone who perhaps that only studied one language doesn't have, is you've seen a lot of different things. You've seen a lot of different grammar structures. You've seen a lot of different ways that people express concepts in different languages. Would you would I mean, do you have any specific language learning advice that you would tell someone who wants to learn a language but doesn't know where to start, or perhaps is a bit self-conscious, not sure if they can do it?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, I think first of all, it's important to yeah, how do you say it? To not don't be afraid. Like sometimes people are they have a little bit like stereotypes or prejudges about the language. They really think it's impossible to study it. But I think you can really start somewhere. Even by watching a tutorial. There are many tutorials online where native speakers talk about the language. When you would start with like 50 common words, and I always say start with conjugating verbs, like that's a great start actually. Like whatever I do,
Hmm.
you do, they do, we do, whatever. So it gives you confidence. If you do the same thing with the past simple and everything, and you do it with whatever 20 common verbs, and you're starting with like, let's say 100 basic words, and you try to do that the first week, and
Hmm.
if you try to do a little bit more each week, I really think that after 1 month or 2 months, you can achieve a lot. So, and yeah, something what I also do is like I try to use English like less English. So what I said is I study Catalan using Spanish. Try to study, for example, Thai using
Oh,
Chinese. So
laddering.
for example, the
Hmm.
instrumental strategy is how I want to call it. It's like using a language as an instrument, as a tool to study another one. That means that I have the target language,
Hmm.
which is for example Thai, and the instrument is Mandarin Chinese, right? Then I'm developing two languages at the same time. And what you said about getting
Gotcha.
language to an intermediate level works pretty well if you are using more languages instead of English. So if you try to replace your daily activities, which you normally have in English, for any other language. So watching movies in Spanish, watching movies in whatever Chinese, it helps a lot. Because we hear so much
Gotcha.
in English every day. We have more than 4 or 5 hours of content per day, which is in English. And
That's
of
true.
course, there are people who want to have a C2 level in English, but for example, that's not my dream. Like I prefer to, yeah, to develop the other languages as well. So, but yeah,
I'm curious, when you learn languages, because you've had experience with so
mm,
many different languages, your brain must be going crazy, like in terms of connections. Because one thing that studying the well, I guess seven languages that I've studied, it's like every single time I'm looking at like another language, whether it be like Arabic or even, for example, I'm learning German now and I already speak
yeah,
Dutch, so it's kind of like I'm like seeing like, oh my god, like a lot of things in Dutch. You can clearly see the connection to German. How is that like learning when you decide nowadays, like, okay, I'm gonna learn my 30th language, or study my the 30th language that I have experience with, like, do you just see patterns popping up everywhere because of your past experience and your past the past languages that you've
very,
studied?
very good question. Yeah, like I also see really like a parallel of what you said before and what you're asking right now, because I think that's really we're on a point right now that we also need to sort of
Mm.
reflect on what is helping. Like I sometimes think that I learned too many languages at the beginning, and that if I would have known what I know right now, also by knowing other
Mm.
people. Like let's say that first I didn't know you, I didn't know Xiao Ma, I didn't know Oriental Pearl and all these other
Mm.
creators. But they're inspiring me as well, and I learned a lot of different things. So that's why I'm also like very careful by talking about a method or a strategy, because like I'm also inspired by
Of
other
course.
people and their story. And like what I personally think is that also like, but because some people take language learning more on a more detailed way, like for example, Oriental Pearl, she is also
Hmm.
inspiring me, for example, like, and I'm thinking like, okay, cool, whoa, this is also possible. And like right now, what I'm trying to do is I try to get my Mandarin on like an intermediate
Hmm.
level of speaking. And I really believe that once a language is at the intermediate level
Yeah,
or better, it is way more easy. It's way easier actually to study or learn language from the same family.
100%.
And once it is basic, it is how do you say it? Like it's not working. So for example, if I'm speaking, let's say, for example, right now with my Spanish level, my French level, my
Hmm.
Portuguese level, I can easily improve my Italian and
Mm.
Catalan, for example, because those languages are related to each other. But when I would have done that, first I started too early learning Spanish and Portuguese all at the same time, and then I was mixing up those
Got
languages.
you.
So the same as with, for example, yeah, let's say another language like um, yeah, I'm just thinking like a
Hmm.
Slavic language, for example, Russian. It is way easier if you improve the language first and then continue with Serbian, for
Got you.
example, or with whatever Slovak or and if you don't do that, if you don't understand how these cases work, it will be a mess in each of those languages which are related to each other. So that's how I think
Got
about
you.
it. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on. We're definitely going to do this again sometime. I was just curious
Yeah.
if you had anything that you wanted to shout out, anything that you would want my audience to check out of yours. Fire away.
Yeah. Can I also just tell something about you?
Sure.
Like I know like thanks for giving the honor to tell something about my videos or anything, but I really want to say something to you which
Sure.
is more important. Like I think you are a true fighter, that you are like so I have so much respect that you are right here doing this podcast and inspiring so many people to do what they're doing. And
I appreciate it, man.
yeah, I think your audience knows about like that you're struggling sometimes, but you're still doing that.
Gotta fight
And
on.
that's like I think you motivate a lot of people,
Mm.
and that they're also I think like also past 2 years were very hard for people during COVID.
Yeah.
Many people were at home, but by looking at you, I think a lot of people still got energy, and are still seeing someone like yo. You don't have like any limits basically. Like you're basically 10 times stronger than any average person, by just like during these
Yeah.
circumstances, there are no limits, and you're going with your content, and it is really beautiful to see that language doesn't have any you know borders or anything, that
Mm.
nothing can stop you, that you love your language, you love languages and culture so much that you're just doing that. So I really want to say keep doing that.
Appreciate it,
And
man.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
cheers.
Thank you so much for the kind words. It really means a lot to me. And yeah, I mean, one of the things I get self-conscious about is my language skills because of my whole illness. I'm not able to practice. Sometimes I study Japanese for over an hour. My brain starts to hurt. It's a bit of a mess, but of course, got to keep fighting on. And I'm super excited because yeah, I mean, I just love language learning, and I feel like my YouTube channel and my upcoming language learning app have been just giving me so much
Yeah.
life during this hard time. And yeah, and I'm super grateful for everyone watching this because you're part of the reason why I'm able to deal with all these things. And of course, grateful for you for being on the channel, and thank you so much for your kind words. And
Yeah, of course, man.
everyone,
Yeah, like
be sure to check him out. Be sure to check out Wouter's channel. You can just click it. His channel link is probably in the title of this video, but also in the description.
oh,
But
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
but really, like, I really believe that whatever, like, for some people it's languages, for some people it's sport, but we have a reason to wake up, and we're
Mm,
waking up with a smile. You're
exactly.
waking up with a smile because you're like, yo, I'm learning this language, I'm going to study this. And like this energy, this mental energy, like, is way stronger than whatever, like,
Someone could say.
whatever is happening in life, basically, like the mental energy, and the motivational feeling which you have, to start the day. That's so important, and that's why I am happy with you, but other people are also happy with you because you're inspiring. You don't have like any idea like how many people are maybe like having a sad day, they feel upset, they
That's
watch you and
true.
they are thinking like, yo, I can do this. So it's cool, man.
Appreciate it,
Cheers.
man. Thank you so much for joining me again. Thank you for the kind words, man. Have a
Yeah,
good
of
one.
course, man. I mean it. Cheers. Yeah.
Cool. Take
Okay.
care.
Cool, man. Cheers. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thank you.